Hello, Michael Tellinger here with another frequently asked questions session, and in this video we deal with the question, are we going back to the Dark Ages? Are we going backwards? Now, I find this fascinating, and again, I'm answering these questions because these are some of the frequently asked questions. They're nonsensical to me, but I know that there are probably many people out there that still ask this question. I hope that by the time you get through the implementation videos, which weren't available more than sort of 2 years ago, so if you're a relative newcomer to this and you've watched all the One Small Town implementation videos, there are probably 4 or 5 of them, make sure you watch them all. By the time you finish watching these, you'll already know a lot of the answers to these questions because they really are self-explanatory. But I'm going to answer these questions in any case because these are the frequently asked questions that have arisen over a 15-year period. We'll just go through them, get them done so that they're recorded for eternity and people can watch them whenever they feel like getting reassurance or whatever doubt they might have. So, are we going back to the Dark Ages? Now, there's a reason why people ask this question. This is probably some time ago. And the reason for that is because in the beginning, when we were still developing the One Small Town strategy or the Ubuntu philosophy and the Contributionism philosophy, where people would live together and work together, cooperate, collaborate, many people jumped to the conclusion that we're going to start building like these hippie colonies and just get a bunch of people together on a piece of land and start growing food and pitch tents and build a cottage or a teepee or whatever. So that's clearly not what we're doing. I've dealt with this in a different video. We are not promoting intentional communities or any kind of hippie colony that we've seen around the world where people live together and it becomes a mess. There's no management, there's no structure, and the thing just some of them survive, somehow survive, but it's definitely not a pleasant environment and not an environment that everybody wants to live in. We're doing the opposite. We're going to existing towns, existing villages, towns, not villages, probably towns of at least 5,000 people, and there's a reason for that, because anything less than that we probably won't have enough people to support the 3 hours contribution to start off with. But I'll deal with that in a separate video. What's the minimum number of people we need to start a One Small Town strategy or get it off the ground? So the question of are we going to the Dark Ages arose when people were still confused and they thought that we're going to build these hippie colonies, which means it's just going to be a mess. There's going to be no electricity. People are going to live in really poor conditions and so forth, just to try and escape the madness of the modern world, try and escape the city and the stress that we're exposed to on a daily basis to try and survive in a city environment, even if it's in a town environment. It doesn't matter, wherever you are and you feel stressed, under pressure to survive, to provide food for your children and pay your rent and education and so forth, all the stresses and strains and the pressure that is on pretty much all of us, other than just the few very fortunate people in the world. Most people today struggle to survive, and we have to work harder and harder every year just to make enough money to survive and pay our rent and pay our mortgages and so forth. So this is what we're doing. We're taking existing towns with existing infrastructure and we're just changing the way people think. We're changing the way we work. Instead of competing against each other, we're turning competition into cooperation and collaboration. This is a fundamental thing about all these questions. Keep going back to the fundamentals. What are we trying to do? All right. Now, in this scenario, in the perfect model where the mayor drives this, where the mayor becomes the driver and the focal point and the spearhead of the One Small Town strategy, we are going to be inviting investors with technology, with engineering, with healthcare, with education, inventors of all kinds of technology, free alternative electricity, all kinds of healing, inventors of new technology, new material scientists that can make graphene much easier than the current way that is done, or whatever it is. There are so many brilliant minds out there, so many brilliant inventors, so much brilliant technology that is currently not being used. And that technology, those inventions, as we invite the community through the mayor, as we invite all these brilliant minds and these inventors into our town and find the foundation and then the funding and match the funder to this brilliant business that we're going to create, we're going to improve our community on a scale that no one has ever experienced before. Keep in mind that everything we do, whether it's technology or healthcare or whatever it is, everything immediately benefits our entire community, especially those that contribute their 3 hours a week. The people that choose not to contribute their 3 hours a week will carry on paying for things, paying for services and rates and taxes and electricity and etc., and for food and whatever else that we do for ourselves. So the people that opt out, that choose not to contribute their 3 hours a week, will carry on living in our town, in their town, and see all this stuff going around. And sooner or later, they too will decide to join. Because how long do you think it's gonna take for these people to sit on the fence when they see their friends suddenly getting free electricity and food and services and etc., and they still paying for it, and all they got to do is find 3 hours a week? I think the fence sitters will probably not be around for too long once this becomes a successful model. It doesn't even have to become a successful model. It just has to show that it's flowing without too many hiccups and too many problems, that we're actually running this thing smoothly. So we're certainly not going to go to the dark ages. In fact, our little town is going to probably very quickly become one of the most technological and most advanced little town in the world. So if anyone thinks we're going back to the dark ages or going back to living in caves just so we can escape the madness of the world out there, has got it completely wrong. We're taking our town and we're turning it into a place of abundance and prosperity on all levels, which doesn't only include food and so forth. It includes all the technology and all the things that we can create and we choose to create and do for ourselves. So we might end up with a completely different telecommunication device or system in our town that is free for everybody, as long as you're calling anybody in your town. And we might end up with our own Wi-Fi system, which is completely different from the current system that we use, that we integrate into the external system, but this Wi-Fi system belongs to us. So we never ever have to pay for Wi-Fi. So just think outside the box. Think that anything is possible, because we're now working together. All our businesses and activities are integrated, so everything supports and helps and provides every other business with tools and ingredients and components and parts. So whatever we choose to do is certainly not going to take us back into the dark ages or living in caves or living in very impoverished conditions. It's completely the opposite. We're going to the stars. We're going to have technology that very few people will have. You know, who knows? We might have one of our inventors that comes to us because of the opportunities. And we might have levitation technology in our town before anyone else in the world has. And I'm just going to leave it there. You can just let your mind run wild and imagine the possibilities, because now we are driving it as a community of 5 or 10,000 or 20 or 100,000 people that is driving this and creating everything we possibly can to make our lives better, to improve everything, and truly create a united community of abundance and prosperity on every possible level. I hope that answered that question.